Welcome back, beautiful souls, to Falling in Love with Life. Here on my channel, I share my experiences of healing my anxiety and depression and the methods and techniques that I use to do that. My goal is, or my hope is, that by doing so, these videos will find someone who can use them to do the same. Today, I wanted to talk to you about rebuilding trust in yourself. And this is something that can get quite damaged if you have mental health struggles. And we'll get in deeper into that and how I basically learned to trust myself again. But first, I want to invite you to close your eyes and feel into your heart space and breathe into your heart space without judgment and with compassion. Trust is the foundation of any relationship. And we often hear it spoken about in the case of interpersonal relationships, so friendships and romantic relationships and family relationships, and that these relationships mean nothing without trust. But what I don't hear it spoken about as much is trust in the relationship with yourself. So, if you have struggled with mental health, such as anxiety and depression, like I have, then you will know that during those episodes of when it's really bad, we tend to go into something of a survival mode, and a lot of our ability to keep promises to ourselves tends to fall to the wayside. And on top of that, our ability to take care of ourselves tends to fall to the wayside. So, for example, when I have been in my lowest during my depression, I really struggled just to take basic care of myself, just to make sure that I ate enough in the day, or that I ate the right things in the day, or that I got enough sleep, or even that I, took care of my hygiene appropriately. And this, unfortunately, is something that I find a lot of people who have been in this place struggle with as well. And through this process of not looking after ourselves, not looking after our bodies, it's very easy to have the trust broken down until we just don't believe in ourselves anymore. So that makes it very hard then when you set goals to try and improve your habits or to try and get better, to believe that it can actually happen for you. Because at the end of the day, when you have these mental health struggles, the only person who can really help you and the only person who can really change things for you is you. We can get support from those around us, from friends and family and partners and things like that. And of course, through official channels. But if we really want things to change, if we really want it to cement and solidify in our lives, the healing has to start from within us. It was very challenging for me to rebuild trust in myself because I had such a habit of making promises to myself and then just not sticking to them. Which was quite interesting because when I made promises to other people, I would go to the ends of the earth to try and keep those. And so this told me that I valued other people more than I valued myself. And this showed up in many ways in my life, such as choosing inappropriate partners, um, such as feeling like I just wasn't important, or people pleasing, or allowing my boundaries, or not even having boundaries, with other people and with myself. So, in order to change this and rebuild trust in myself and to start building things on that solid foundation of trust, I had to find a way to make changes and show myself that I would show up for myself, that I would be my greatest defender, that I would be my greatest lover, that I was my best friend. And there are a lot of methods that went into this, but one of the big things that really helped with trust was the process of creating micro habits. So, micro habits are tiny little habits that we make throughout the day. In my opinion, they should take less than 5 minutes to do. They should be minimal effort and they should be set up in a way that it's easy to do that habit and complete that habit. Almost that it's easier to do that than to not do it. I see micro habits as being overlooked quite a lot because people don't necessarily see the value in them or they don't think they're enough or good enough. And, I'm sure we've all been there where New Year rolls around and we make these big promises to ourselves of the new habits we're going to make. Like, we're going to be at the gym 5 times a week for an hour a day, and we're going to eat only raw food, or we're, you know, going to start putting aside like a huge chunk of our paycheck into savings and things like that. And these are all, they can be really, really good things. But if you haven't set up this trust and this history of keeping promises to yourself and creating changes in smaller ways, then those promises or those resolutions generally don't last. I think I think I read an article, most people give up on their New Year's resolution within the first week of the new year, which doesn't really surprise me because if you are trying to form a new habit, but you have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever years of living your life a certain way, then overcoming that is going to create a huge amount of effort. And even more so if you don't have any trust in yourself, if you have broken down that trust with yourself. So, this is where micro habits come in because they are quick, they are simple, they should be minimal steps to completion, very, very achievable things. And these can be things that aren't necessarily related to the big goals and the big changes you want to make in your life because their purpose is to help you believe that you can start making those big changes and help you get familiar with that feeling of making big changes in your life. So for me, one of the ways that this really showed up for me was I was listening to someone talk about changing something in their life, something rather large in their life that they wanted to do. And one of their suggested micro habits at the start was to make your bed in the morning. This micro habit was completely unrelated to the actual topic, but I understood what they were saying in that making your bed should take only a couple of minutes. But I find that it is a small investment for a high reward because, coming home to a bedroom with a made bed feels really great, to me at least. And I started that habit after I listened to that, and I kept it up for weeks and months now. And it made a huge, huge difference in my belief of my capability to do things and complete things. I built on from that then other micro habits that I could introduce. And these ones were more targeted to things I actually wanted to achieve in my life. So, for example, I wanted to find a healthier breakfast. So I found something that worked for me that took minimal effort. It took less than a few minutes to prepare, and it really agreed with my stomach, which was what I really wanted from it, is something that was so simple that I didn't have to think about, because in the morning I'm not a morning person, and so I'm often trying to get out the door and trying to I don't want to spend time making breakfast, and I wanted something that would sustain me and that wouldn't upset my stomach, because I do have quite a sensitive stomach, uh, which unfortunately, side note, was not because of my anxiety, despite what a lot of doctors told me. So, anyway, I added this micro habit on about 2 weeks after I started making my bed. And those two things made a huge difference in how I felt about myself and how I felt about the day. I felt like I'd already achieved something for the day. And so I was set up in a much positive mood and with a much more positive attitude for the day. And I already sort of felt good about myself, and I was rebuilding that trust. And over time, I have built up more and more micro habits, such as increasing my water intake. Um, and I set that up by getting a bigger water bottle. So my water bottle now takes more than 1 liter of water, and I just always have it accessible. And I try to always just, when I think about it, just have a sip of water. And these little things made me feel so much better about myself. And then I was able to build on bigger habits from that. So, habits that would take longer time, that were a bigger energy investment, and things like that. And now I've been able to make quite a lot of changes in my life. The routine of my daily routine looks very different now than it did 6 months ago, 12 months ago, all of that. And it's because I started these micro habits and I prioritized these micro habits, and they really helped change my attitude. They helped me feel more energized and just more uh, happy about how I was behaving and how I was looking after myself. And that took away actually quite a lot of shame and guilt that I still had sort of swirling around, that I wasn't aware that I still had that. And it made it really ricocheted out. It really rippled out and made bigger changes in my life. So, my advice to you, if you want to rebuild trust in yourself, is to look into starting some micro habits. You can start with the making your bed one if you don't already, as sort of that little step on. Or you can do other things, like you can focus on drinking more water throughout the day. You can focus on, maybe you want to move more, and so your little micro habit is just to agree to yourself that you are going to spend 3 minutes, walking, whether that is just that you get up and walk around your room. Like, it doesn't have to be this big thing. Because again, like for me with exercise, I really struggled with that, because it was this whole process to me that I had to get changed into specific gear. I had to set aside a certain amount of time. I knew I was going to get sweaty, so I had to factor in that I would need a shower afterwards. But when I make the agreement with myself of I'm going to walk for 5 minutes, you can just walk around the room. And then that built on to adding longer exercise portions and more exercise portions. And any health practitioner will tell you that exercise is really, really good for your mental health. And I agree with that. It's made a big difference. And now I do quite intense exercise, you know, 6 hours a week and things like that. But it felt impossible before in the past. So, if you want to rebuild trust in yourself, I highly, highly recommend looking into some micro habits you can introduce into your day to day. The thing to remember is that they should be quick, they should be simple, they should be only a few steps, I would say 3 or less steps, and they should be almost easier for you to achieve than to not achieve. And that's the way that you set yourself up for success. And then you can build on that and create bigger changes in your life. This I honestly wish that I had found out about the concept of micro habits earlier, but I'm happy that I have them now. And I really hope that whoever views this helps you create some really healthy micro habits and helps you create some change in your life. Because I know what it's like to feel stuck, and I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning or in a hole and you just don't know where to start and you just don't know how to get out. And I promise you, these tiny little steps will help you move from that stagnation, move from that stuckness, move from that feeling of being trapped, and move towards a brighter and happier and healthier future for you. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. That's all I have for you today. And I really wish you all the best on your journey. And if this has resonated with you, I hope that you will stick around and view some of my other videos or stick around till my next video. Wishing you so much love and compassion on your journey to healing and your journey to falling in love with life. Bye.